can't feel at all." It was rather hard work to get the boot off, but at last it was free, and the doctor inspected a double row of red spots, two of which bled a little, but not much. "I'm beginning to feel now," said Jack dolefully. "Why, he ain't bit it off," he said, raising himself so he could look down at the injured member. "I thought it was gone." "No, your foot has only had an ugly pinch. The stout boot saved it. Let it bleed a little, my lad; it will save you pain." "What! Had he only got hold of my boot?" said Jack excitedly. "And the foot in it," said the doctor. "See, here are the marks of the teeth." "I thought he'd bit it right off, Joe Carstairs," said Jack dolefully. "And I say, what a coward I am!" "Coward!" I exclaimed. "Why?" "To be so frightened as I was," replied Jack with a dismal sigh. "Well, I don't know about being a coward, Master Jack Penny," said the doctor quietly, "but I do know that if I had had my foot in that reptile's mouth I should have been in a most horrible state of fear. There, my lad," he continued kindly, "don't think any more about it. Only be thankful for your escape." "But he ought to tell us first how he was caught like that," I said. "Oh, there ain't much to tell," said Jack, sitting up and raising his leg, softly rubbing his injured foot. "I was fishing, and the fish wouldn't bite, and I got a little nearer to the river side and threw in again and fished, and the sun seemed to get hotter, and I suppose I fell asleep, for I remembered dreaming that the dingoes had got among father's sheep again, and that he flicked his whiplash round my wrist. Then I tried to start up, but a big fish had hold of the line, and it tugged away so hard that I was overbalanced and took a header off the bank right into the river, and when I came up, pretty tidy astonished like, and began to swim for the bank, the fish on the line, which I had twisted around my wrist, began tugging me out into the stream. It took me out ever so far before I could get the line off my wrist, and then I swam back easily enough, feeling awful popped like at having lost the fish and the line, and I was just wondering what you would say when all at once there was a regular rush in the water, and something shut on my foot, giving me such an awful nip that I yelled out as I caught hold of that branch and held on, shivering all the while with fear, for I forgot about the crocodiles and thought it must be a shark. "Well?" I said excitedly, for he stopped. "Well, what?" said Jack. "What next? What did you do?" I said. "Hollered," replied Jack laconically. "So would you if you had been me." "Yes," I said, "of course; but what took place next?" "Oh, nothing, only that I held tight and he held tight, and as often as he tugged at me it jumped the bow up and down like a seesaw, and it was very horrid." "Most horrible," said the doctor. "Then I hollered again," said Jack. "Yes, go on," I cried impatiently. "I did go on," he replied. "I went on hollering, but them chaps at the camp were asleep, and I began to feel that I should have to let go soon, only I wouldn't, because I wanted to find out first what had become of the professor. Then at last you came, and that's all. Only I don't feel much like walking very far to-day, so I shall sit still and fish." "Fish! What, with things like that in the water?" I exclaimed. "Oh, they won't hurt me," said Jack, "because I shall be on the lookout now, and won't go in after the next fish that takes my line. I say, where's Gyp?" "I don't know," I said. "I have not seen him." "Crocodiles are very fond of dogs," said Jack quietly. "I hope one of 'em hasn't got Gyp." "Oh no, he'd be too sharp for one of the reptiles," said the doctor reassuringly. "I don't know," said Jack in his quiet drawl. "I thought I was much too clever for crocodiles, but they're sharp, precious sharp about the teeth. Perhaps he's gone hunting something. He often used at home." "Oh yes, he'll come back," I said. "Well, we shall see," said Jack. "I'm better now. Lend me another line, Joe Carstairs. I want to see if I can't catch a fish." I looked about first to see if I could trace my line, but it was hopelessly gone. To my surprise and pleasure, though, I found the doctor's where he had left it, tied to a root and drawn out tight, evidently with a fish at the end. I imagined that I could easily draw this out, and I did get it close up to the bank, but as soon as it was in the shallow water it sprang right out and darted away again, making the line rush through my hands so rapidly that it burned my skin. As it leaped out I had a good opportunity of seeing that a great silvery fellow, fully a yard long, had hooked itself and meant to have some playing before it turned over upon its side in token of submission. I kept on playing the fish, which seemed to grow stronger instead of weaker as I went on at give and take with it, until I was almost tired. At least 6 times did I draw it in and try to bring it within reach of Ti-Hi's fingers, but in vain, for it always darted off as if refreshed. At last, though, I drew it well in, and once more it was about to repeat its tactics, but this time it was too late, for the black pounced down upon it, thrust his hooked fingers into its gills, and pulled it up on to the bank. Just then Jimmy came trotting up, hauling away at a line, and to my great delight I found he had hunted out the one we had left with Jack Penny. "Fast 'em round big wood," he cried. Then he tried to explain how the fish had entangled the line round what an American would call a snag, and the result was that we had 2 fine fish to carry back to the camp, Jimmy's being tired out and readily yielding as he hauled it on the line. "I don't think I'll fish to-day," said Jack Penny then. "I say, I feel as if that buck warn't good enough to eat." Hardly had he spoken before he softly sank down sideways and lay looking very white with his eyes shut. "Is it the venison?" I said in a whisper to the doctor. "No, he is a little faint now the reaction has set in," replied the doctor, and we had to carry poor wet Jack Penny as well as the fish into camp, and of course we got no further on our journey that day. End of chapter 13. How Jack Penny put his foot in a trap.